Hey everybody, and welcome to the deep dive. We're going to be taking a deep dive into knowledge stores today.
Okay.
You can kind of think about it as like a mental warehouse where you basically organize everything you learn.
Uh-huh.
And the sources that we're looking at for this deep dive,
Okay.
they get pretty creative. They actually compare it to building a house brick by brick.
Oh, wow.
But here's where I think things get really interesting.
Okay.
They say that learning isn't linear.
Interesting.
It's not like watching a TV show. So I really want to unpack that idea.
Yeah, that's a great point.
What do you think for that?
I think it's really interesting because, we often think of learning as like a very step-by-step process.
Right.
Like you go from point A to point B to point C.
Totally.
But I think in reality, it's much more dynamic and interconnected than that.
So are you saying that instead of thinking about it,
Yeah.
like neatly dividing knowledge into like episodes or chapters,
Yeah,
that it's more about building like a complex web of understanding?
exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good way to put it.
I'm picturing a massive puzzle
Okay.
where each piece represents a new piece of information.
I love that visual.
Right.
Because it really highlights not just the accumulating of those pieces,
Yeah.
but how they connect to reveal the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I think it's the connections that really give those individual pieces meaning and context.
Totally. And speaking of connections,
Yeah.
the sources also talk about how understanding like really basic concepts across multiple fields
Okay.
can help us grasp more complex ideas.
Right.
And they use this really interesting analogy about marbles in a jar.
Okay.
So each marble is like a different profession or field of study. And like as one marble, our area of expertise becomes clearer.
Okay.
It starts to reflect light onto surrounding marbles and gradually illuminates the whole jar.
I like that.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
But do you think that's practical?
I would say yes. I think it's actually one of the most effective ways to learn. And our sources back this up with other practical strategies too.
Okay, let's hear it.
So things like asking questions,
Okay.
discussing ideas with diverse people,
Right.
reading widely, and experimenting hands-on.
I love that.
And I think it all comes down to cultivating curiosity and open-mindedness.
You know what? This
Yeah.
is all making a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
But it makes you wonder why this isn't emphasized in school.
You're right. That is a really good question.
Right.
A lot of people ask that.
Yeah.
And I think our sources suggest a few possible reasons for that.
Okay, what are they?
Well, traditional education often prioritizes memorization and testing.
Yeah.
And that may not always capture deep understanding or the ability to really make connections.
Yeah, it seems like the focus is always on getting the right answer
Yeah.
and not necessarily on developing a deep understanding of the material.
Right. And then you also have time constraints.
Of course.
And large class sizes can also limit how much you can explore a topic.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
But the good news is that even if those skills weren't emphasized in school,
Okay.
we can still develop them on our own.
So what are some ways that we can cultivate those skills independently?
Well, one powerful way is to try to make connections with the information that we encounter. So in books, articles, podcasts like this one,
Right.
think about how it applies to your own life.
Hmm.
You know, your work, your understanding of the world.
Okay.
Instead of just passively taking it in,
Right.
ask yourself, how does this connect to what I already know?
So it's about engaging with the material
Exactly.
and looking for those connections.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another thing our sources talk about is seeking out diverse perspectives.
Right.
Having conversations with people from different backgrounds with different viewpoints
Yeah.
that can challenge our assumptions and broaden our understanding.
For sure. And don't be afraid to ask questions
Right.
because that shows that you're actually thinking about the material.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. That you're looking for a deeper meaning.
Yeah. You're not just passively consuming it.
Yeah, love that.
And don't underestimate the power of things like puzzles and problem solving
Right.
to, sharpen your analytical thinking skills.
Keep your mind sharp.
Yeah, exactly. And even something as simple as like learning a new skill through hands-on experience
Oh, for sure.
can be incredibly valuable because it's in those moments of active engagement that our knowledge source really start to take shape.
Yeah, I love that. We've been talking a lot about connections,
Uh-huh.
but our sources also highlight the importance of concepts as the fundamental building blocks of a strong knowledge store.
Right. They're like the anchors for our understanding.
Okay, so would you say that if we can grasp the core concepts, then it makes it easier to build on that foundation?
Exactly.
Okay.
And a good way to test your understanding of a concept
Uh-huh.
is to see if you can explain it thoroughly and with different examples.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you can teach it to somebody else. That makes sense. That's a pretty good indication that you've got a solid grasp of it.
It's like the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Exactly. But
Right.
I want to add a little caveat here.
Okay.
While being able to explain something well is a good indicator,
Yeah.
it doesn't always guarantee perfect understanding.
That's interesting.
There's always room for refining,
Okay.
digging deeper, challenging your own assumptions.
So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn.
Absolutely.
Our sources emphasize that building a rich collection of these concepts is really essential for lifelong learning.
It is, and it can be a very fascinating journey of discovery.
Right.
Think of it as building a mental library filled with all these books on all sorts of different subjects.
I love that. And it's a library that we can keep adding to throughout our lives.
Exactly.
Right. And our sources actually list so many ways to gather these concepts, like
sure.
reading, listening to podcasts like ours,
Of course.
writing summaries, having conversations, observing the world around us,
Absolutely.
even getting hands-on with practical experiences.
All of that.
Yeah, me.
The sooner we start building this mental library, the better.
Right.
Right. Never too early or too late to cultivate this habit of collecting and connecting concepts.
So now I'm picturing this vast mental warehouse
Okay.
filled with all these fascinating concepts. But how do we keep it from becoming overwhelming?
Right.
How do we organize it so that it's actually useful?
I think that's where this next analogy comes in.
Okay.
Our sources compare a well-organized mind to a well-stocked supermarket.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Think about it. When you walk into a well-organized supermarket,
Yeah.
you can easily find what you need because everything is clearly labeled and categorized.
Yes.
You know exactly where to go for reduced dairy snacks, all that stuff.
Right.
It's the same with our mental stores,
Right.
Having a system for categorizing and connecting concepts makes them much easier to find and use.
So it's not just about having all this knowledge.
Right.
It's about being able to actually access and apply it.
Exactly.
It's like having a mental filing system
Mhm.
that helps you make sense of all the information you encounter.
Right. And just as a supermarket offers a variety of products to meet different needs,
Yeah.
our mental store should be stocked with a diverse range of concepts to address different situations.
That makes a lot of sense.
And just like a real supermarket adapts to, changing customer preferences.
Right.
Our mental inventory should evolve as we learn more,
Yeah.
as we encounter new ideas.
So we should be constantly evaluating those concepts,
Okay.
seeing if they still serve us,
Yeah. Comparing them?
being open to updating them.
Right.
Okay. This is great.
Yeah.
I know what our listeners are thinking, though.
What's that?
How do we actually build this?
That's a good question. And the good news is our sources actually provide some guidance on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
The first step is to choose the right tools.
Okay.
This could be anything from a traditional notebook to note-taking apps,
Right.
mind maps, databases, mobile apps, whatever.
Yeah.
The key is finding what works best for you and your learning style.
So step one is to find your weapon of choice.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so what's next?
Well, once you've got your tools,
Yeah.
you need to establish categories
Okay.
for your information.
Uh-huh.
This could be by topic, by source, by project,
Right.
whatever system makes sense to you.
Gotcha.
The key here is consistency.
Okay.
Once you have your categories, develop a consistent naming system
Okay.
for your files and your notes.
Mm-hmm.
This will make it much easier down the line to search and retrieve information.
So it's all about creating a system that's easy to use and maintain.
Right.
Organization is key
It is.
to a well-stocked mental supermarket.
Exactly.
What else?
You also want to schedule regular maintenance time.
Okay.
Go through your notes, delete any unnecessary information, make sure everything's still organized and relevant.
Like spring cleaning for your mind?
Exactly. Out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah. I love that.
And to really maximize your system's potential, you want to link or tag related pieces of information.
Uh-huh.
This will allow you to see the connections and have those aha moments
Yeah.
that can lead to even deeper understanding.
So it's not just a static filing cabinet.
Right.
It's a dynamic web of interconnected ideas.
Exactly. And remember, the best system is the one that you'll actually use consistently.
Right.
So experiment, adapt,
Yeah.
find what works best for your unique learning style and preferences.
It's about making it your own.
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this.
I love that. Yeah.
It's that personalization that really makes it powerful,
It's like we're not just passively absorbing information.
Right.
We're actively shaping our understanding of the world.
Exactly. It's about becoming like the architects of our own knowledge.
It's interesting. We've been talking about these practical tips for
Yeah.
building our knowledge stores.
Right.
But I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about how learning isn't like watching a TV show.
Right. I think that's such a powerful analogy
Yeah.
because it forces us to think differently about how learning actually works.
Yeah.
We're so used to just consuming information in this linear, sequential way, like episodes in a series. But real learning is so much more dynamic than that.
Yeah, it's not about like passively binge watching your way to knowledge.
Exactly. It's about making connections, exploring different viewpoints,
Right.
and constantly updating our understanding as we encounter new information.
It's like every new insight we get can shift our entire perspective.
Precisely. And that's why building a knowledge store is so crucial.
Yeah.
It gives us this framework for organizing and integrating all these different pieces of information
Right.
so we can make sense of the world around us.
It's like having a mental map that helps us navigate the complexities of knowledge. And that map is constantly being updated and redrawn as we explore new territories.
That's a great way to put it. And just like a good map, helps us see patterns, make predictions, discover new possibilities.
Right.
A well-organized knowledge store can do the same thing for us.
So it's not just about accumulating knowledge, it's about being able to use it effectively.
Exactly. It's about developing what we call knowledge transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to apply what we know to new situations, solve problems, innovate, and make informed decisions.
And I feel like that's becoming even more important
Oh, absolutely.
in today's world.
Yeah, because in a world where information is constantly changing and evolving,
Right.
the ability to learn, adapt, and connect the dots is essential.
So what does all this mean for us, like on a practical level?
Well, I think our sources suggest one of the best ways to start is to become more aware of how you learn.
Okay.
Pay attention to those aha moments.
Yeah.
When you see a connection between two seemingly unrelated ideas.
So it's about being more mindful of our own learning process.
Exactly. Reflect on how you process information, how you organize your thoughts, how you apply what you know to real-world situations.
Okay.
Once we have a better understanding of how our minds work,
Yeah.
we can start experimenting with different strategies and tools for organizing and connecting information.
It's all about finding what works best for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Remember, there's no one right way to build a knowledge store.
Right.
It's a personal journey.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is to find a system that you enjoy using.
Yeah.
And that helps you make sense of the world around you.
It's about creating a system that empowers you to become a lifelong learner.
And that's a journey worth embarking on.
Absolutely. So for our listeners who are ready to start building their own mental supermarkets,
Yeah.
what are some tips that they can take away from this deep dive?
Well, one of the simplest yet most effective strategies is to just start asking more questions.
Okay.
Don't just passively absorb information.
Yeah.
Challenge a question and explore different perspectives.
Like reconnect with that childlike curiosity.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to dive deep into topics that fascinate you.
Mm-hmm.
The more we explore, the more connections we're going to find.
And those connections are what make it so rewarding.
Absolutely. It's those moments of insight.
Yeah.
Those times when we see the world in a new light that make all the effort worthwhile.
It's about approaching learning with a sense of wonder and excitement.
Yeah, a thirst for knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to embrace the messiness and complexity of it all.
I like that.
Building a knowledge store isn't about achieving some perfect state of understanding.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous learning and growth.
It's a journey that can last a lifetime.
It can, and one that can lead to incredible discoveries along the way.
Speaking of discoveries, I'm curious about something that stood out to me in the source material.
Okay, what's that?
They talk about how even small, seemingly insignificant insights can have a ripple effect on our understanding.
Interesting.
It's like each new piece of knowledge can unlock a whole new world of possibilities.
It reminds me of something I read recently about the interconnectedness of knowledge.
Okay.
This author was arguing that every idea, every concept is connected to every other idea in some way.
Whoa, that's a pretty big thought.
It is, and it suggests that the more we explore, the more connections we're going to find.
Right.
And who knows what amazing insights might emerge from those connections.
It's like a never-ending treasure hunt.
Exactly. And the best part is the more we learn, the more we realize how much more there is to discover.
That's exciting and a little bit daunting at the same time.
It is, but it's also incredibly empowering
Okay.
because it means that no matter how much we know, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this journey of lifelong learning so rewarding.
As we start to wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing to remember is this. Don't underestimate the power of your own mind. You have this incredible capacity to learn, to grow, and to make sense of the world around you. And by consciously building your knowledge store, you can unlock that potential and embark on this lifelong journey of discovery.
It's about embracing the power of our own minds and approaching learning as an adventure.
Precisely. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I love that.
So enjoy the process of exploring, connecting, and expanding your understanding of the world.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
Imagine if we all approached learning as this lifelong process of building this mental supermarket. What kind of world could we create if we all had access to and could share this well-organized knowledge?
That's a powerful thought.
It's a reminder that knowledge isn't just something we acquire. It's something we create, something we share, and something that has the power to transform our world.
Beautifully said. And on that inspiring note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of building knowledge stores.
Great conversation.
We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
Yeah. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those knowledge stores growing.
I think that's such a beautiful way to frame it.
Yeah.
It's not just about personal gain,
Right.
but about collective growth.
Yeah.
And the potential to create a more informed, more understanding, ultimately a better world.
Precisely. And, you know, if we look back at human history, so much progress and innovation and positive change has come from the sharing and collaboration of knowledge.
It makes you wonder what we could achieve if we all took this idea of building and sharing our knowledge stores seriously.
It's an exciting thought for sure.
Yeah.
It really does make you think, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like, what could we accomplish?
Yeah, like where do we even begin?
Well, I think it's already happening in a way.
Okay.
Like every time we have a conversation and share our ideas or look for new information, we're adding to that.
So it's not necessarily about having this huge centralized place where everyone puts all their knowledge.
Exactly. It's more about like encouraging people to be curious and to work together.
I see. And our sources talk about how this idea of sharing what we know has always been important for humans.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To make progress.
Like all the advancements we've made in science and technology and art, a lot of that is because people were willing to share their ideas and build on what others had done.
It's like we're building on the work of those who came before us.
Exactly. And with the technology we have today, it's even easier to connect with people and work together.
So we could create this global network of ideas.
Exactly. A place where everyone can contribute and learn.
It's a nice thought, especially in a world that can feel divided sometimes.
I agree. It shows how powerful knowledge can be in bringing people together.
And it reminds us that we all have knowledge to share.
Absolutely. No matter who we are or what we know, we can all learn and grow and share what we've learned.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah.
We've talked about how learning isn't always straightforward.
Yeah.
About organizing what we know, and about how sharing knowledge can really change things.
We've covered a lot.
We have. And I'm sure our listeners have their own thoughts and experiences to add to this.
For sure. Maybe we can talk about this again sometime.
We should. But for now, thank you everyone for joining us on this deep dive into knowledge and learning.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you learn some new things and feel inspired to keep learning and share what you know.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
I love that.
So keep exploring and connecting and stay curious.
Until next time.